It's a week ahead of March break, and Pearson Airport has let people know it is limiting flights in hopes of curbing delays and trying to avoid that chaos that we saw over the December holidays. So what does this mean for your travel plans? For more, we're joined this morning by the spokesperson for the Toronto Airport Workers' Council and York University Labour Geography Associate Professor, Stephen Tufts. Welcome to your morning.
Thank you.
So we remember this report. Pearson at one point was named by a flight tracking website as the worst airport in the world for delayed flights. How is limiting these flights for customers going to help hopefully keep everything on time?
Well, they're trying to spread out the number of departures and arrivals over the day. So the idea is you limit the slots that airlines can have in certain high travel periods. And then you'll get those folks flying out maybe at times that maybe not be opportune for passengers, but level out the flow through baggage and through customs throughout the day and avoid those peak travel clogs, if you will, or in the system.
Let me ask you then about passengers, because we already know of a couple of passengers who've received these emails and their flights have been moved to the day before. So if an airline does that, you get a different flight or they'll help you with accommodations. But when the airport does it, how does that work?
Yeah, this is where it gets into a little bit of tricky territory. In 2019, just before COVID hit, there was a Passenger Regulations Act. New regulations came into effect. They were updated just in the fall after COVID. Was gone through. Now, there's a lot of different things that come into play when you are denied boarding involuntarily because of the airline's fault. You get compensation.
That's right.
When it's not the airline's fault, you don't get the same level of compensation. So there's a different standard of treatment. So we're going to have to see how the airlines respond if they blame the airports for these delays, and whether or not they adhere to it as something that's within their control and compensate accordingly.
Well, so this is one of the biggest frustrations. You would know this from customers, is that it's the lack of communication, it's the lack of clarity, and it's the lack of getting my money. That's frustrating. Yes,
and of course, that was why the recent upgrades to the Passenger Regulations Act in 2022 was to give people their money that they lost over COVID, or at least make sure it doesn't happen again. I think the really thing we have to look at here is some of these solutions being put in by Pearson are attempting to limit delays by spreading out the passenger flow. Whether that has the effect it wants, we'll have to see. There's a lot of things that cause delays in airport travel that, other than just slot scheduling, there's weather that we're experiencing today. So whether or not these folks can actually smooth out the passenger flow and handle it is something that is going to be an experiment over the next few weeks and into the summer, because they're also limiting passenger flow for international travel and departures.
This is something that confuses me, Stephen. March break happens every year. We know it's a chaotic time to travel every year. Why wait until the week before March break to let people know that this is going to be a problem?
I wish I had an answer for that. Well, you're going to have to ask the airport authority that question. I will say that negotiations between the airlines and the airport are always ongoing. There's a lot of things to be worked out. It's a negotiation that involves several different factors, and what's happened is, I think, and if I had to speculate, is that the airports at the very last minute didn't trust the airlines to pull this off.
Interesting.
So that they are sort of forcing the airline's hand by saying, you're only getting this many slots at this time. You're going to have to change your algorithms and not oversell tickets like they did in the summer of 2022 and create chaos. And the bigger airlines, Air Canada, have said that they can accommodate this with maybe a few changes because they have so many slots at Pearson. They're the largest vendor. Smaller airlines may find it a bit tricky because they don't have as many flights taking off and arriving each day. So we're going to have to see how the WestJets handle this, the Porters handle this, and other smaller airlines. I will say that from a worker's point of view is that 2022 was not a good summer. It was chaos. Frontline workers took a lot of abuse and had to deal with the chaos that was thrust upon them. So we understand passenger frustration, but we hope that when delays do happen, that you don't take it out on the frontline workers, because they're not the ones with power making these decisions.
Really quickly, Stephen, because we don't have a lot of time, I just want to know what happens if you're one of those people who's had a flight moved.
Well, depending on the circumstances of why the flight was moved, you are entitled to compensation. I suggest that you look at the fact sheets that tell you what you're entitled to. In some cases, if you are denied boarding because of an oversell on a flight and you're told you can't get on this plane, we've sold too many tickets, you're entitled to some significant compensation. Not only to be rebooked at no cost, but also additional compensation for the inconvenience.
Man, it's a hassle trying to track all that down when you're also just trying to get out the door. Thanks so much, Stephen.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.